Look up at the night sky. What do you see? An endless, silent expanse. A cold vacuum between islands of burning gas. A cosmic graveyard of light from long-dead stars. It is profoundly, terrifyingly empty. Feels unconscious. Now feel your own heartbeat, the rush of breath in your lungs, the dizzying cascade of your thoughts, your memories, your fears, your loves. Inside you, there is a roaring, vivid, technicolor universe of experience. How can this be? How can a universe so silent and seemingly empty produce something so vibrant, so aware, so conscious as you? This is the greatest riddle of our existence. We are not merely in the universe, we are the universe. We are a localized knot of stardust that has suddenly, inexplicably, begun to think, to feel, to wonder. We are a fragment of the cosmos that has woken up and is now gazing back at itself, bewildered by its own reflection. This feeling of separateness, of being a lonely observer adrift in a cold cosmos, is the most convincing illusion of all. And to dismantle it, we must journey back to the very beginning of everything. Our story doesn't start with life or earth or even stars. It begins in a moment beyond time, in a state of such profound unity that the words here and there have no meaning. Physicists call it the singularity. The mystics might call it God before the first thought. Imagine all of existence, every galaxy, every person, every atom of your body and the void between galaxies, compressed into a single brilliant point of infinite potential. There was no separation, no observer and observed. It was a cosmic oneness, a perfect, undivided whole. Then, the event, the Big Bang. Not an explosion in space, but an explosion of space itself. A sudden, violent flowering of reality. In a fraction of a second, the universe expanded from a quantum speck to a cosmic canvas, cooling as it grew. The four fundamental forces, gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, crystallized out of their primordial unity. Energy condensed into the first particles which would later form atoms. This was the necessary, the inevitable great forgetting. The one had to shatter into the many for a universe of things to even exist. This fragmentation was the price of creation. The cosmos became a sprawling cathedral of unimaginable beauty and scale, but a silent one. For billions of years it was a magnificent sleeping machine. Stars were born, lived, and died in spectacular supernovae, forging the heavier elements in their fiery hearts. Galaxies spun in a graceful, gravitational dance. But it was all unconscious, automatic, following the silent algorithms of physics without witness, without meaning, without memory. It was a universe of breathtaking structure that had forgotten its origin, a symphony playing to an empty hall. The original unity was now hidden, a ghost in the cosmic machine, a secret buried so deep that the universe itself seemed to have amnesia. The stage was set, filled with countless actors, but no one was yet awake to speak the lines, to understand the plot, or to remember the playwright. But in the deepening cold and the spreading silence, a new plot was brewing, a conspiracy of complexity against the emptiness, a faint pulse beginning to stir in the quiet heart of a forgotten galaxy. The universe's first act was one of magnificent, violent creation. Its second act was one of patient, meticulous gathering. The great forgetting had scattered the seeds of potential across the void, and now the long, slow process of remembering could begin. It started in the hearts of those first stars. Gravity pulled clouds of primordial hydrogen and helium together until the pressure ignited them into fusion furnaces. There, in that insane heat and pressure, simple elements were forged into heavier, more complex ones. Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, the very stuff of life. But these elements were trapped, prisoners inside their stellar creators. The universe needed a way to set them free. It chose violence. The largest stars lived fast and died young, exploding in supernovae of cataclysmic beauty. These stellar deaths were cosmic alchemy, scattering their enriched guts across entire galaxies. From the ashes of dead stars, new solar systems could form. In one unremarkable spiral arm of an unremarkable galaxy, a third-generation star ignited, surrounded by a swirling disk of this stardust. From that disk, planets coalesced, and on one particular rocky world, orbiting within a perfect Goldilocks zone, not too close to the fire, not too far, something impossible happened. The contrast couldn't be more stark. The forces that brought this world into being were unimaginably violent. Collisions of planetesimals, a surface of molten rock, a bombardment of asteroids. Yet from this chaos order emerged. In the warm, shallow seas of early Earth, carbon learned to link with other elements, forming chains of increasing complexity. Lightning and volcanic heat provided the energy. This wasn't a random accident. It was the universe following a new set of instructions, a deeper impulse woven into the fabric of physics itself, a drive toward complexity, toward information processing, toward consciousness. Molecules became self-replicating systems. Chemistry became biology. Life was the universe's first great rebellion against entropy and emptiness. It was a way for the cosmos to not just be, but to persist, to interact, to remember its own existence. Single-celled organisms emerged, then multicellular life. For billions of years, life was a silent, sensory film on the planet's surface, feeling the sun, reacting to chemicals, a primal experiencing. But the universe was still only half awake. Could sense stimuli, but it couldn't yet interpret it. Could process information, but it couldn't yet weave that information into a story. To tell that story, to truly remember itself, the universe needed to build something exquisite, a central nervous system. It needed to construct an instrument so sophisticated it could turn electrical impulses into the breathtaking panorama of subjective experience. It needed to build a brain. The universe had built its vessel in the form of the human body, but to truly tune into the symphony of existence, it required a finely calibrated instrument. That instrument is your nervous system, not a generator of consciousness, but a receiver, a translator, a biological antenna of breathtaking complexity. Think of it like this: the world out there is a roaring ocean of raw data. It is a chaotic storm of electromagnetic radiation, pressure waves, and chemical signals. Your conscious mind cannot process that storm. It would be overwhelming. So, your brain performs a miracle of editing. It takes this incomprehensible chaos and constructs a simplified, user-friendly simulation that we agree to call reality. This is the first and most crucial secret to understand. You are not perceiving the world as it truly is. You are perceiving a useful story about the world, written by your brain. Consider vision. What we see as a vibrant, full-color world is merely a sliver of the full electromagnetic spectrum. We are blind to infrared and ultraviolet. We cannot see radio waves or gamma rays. Our eyes are tiny keyholes through which we peer at a vast, hidden cathedral. Our hearing is just as limited, capturing only a narrow band of vibrational frequencies. Our entire sensory experience is a curated exhibit, not the full museum. So what is the raw data? It is the universe itself, expressing itself in infinite ways. The warmth of the sun, the scent of rain, the sound of a cello, these are not just things happening to you. They are the universe interacting with itself. Your nervous system is the localized point where that interaction becomes experience. It is the universe's own technology, evolved over billions of years, to translate its own hidden energies into the language of sight, sound, and sensation. You are not a ghost in a machine. You are the machine itself come alive. You are the universe, feeling the warmth of its own sun, listening to its own harmonies, and smelling its own fertile earth after a storm. With this antenna finally built and tuned, the cosmos could, for the first time, feel the rain on its skin and see the stars it had birthed. But sensation alone is not enough. To complete the act of remembering, the universe needed one final, magical ingredient, the spark that would turn this raw sensation into meaning, into narrative, into story. This breathtaking idea that we are the universe becoming aware of itself feels like a radical product of modern science. But what if it's actually the oldest story ever told? What if our ancestors, sitting beneath the same stars, weren't just creating superstitions but were intuiting a fundamental truth about reality, encoding it in the only language they had, myth and symbol? They felt this truth in their bones long before telescopes or particle accelerators could provide a hint of evidence. They looked inward and discovered the same cosmos we are now finding by looking outward. Take the ancient Hindu scriptures, the Upanishads, written over 2,500 years ago. They speak of Brahman, the ultimate, unchanging reality, the cosmic soul that permeates everything. And they speak of Atman, the individual soul, the inner self. Their most profound, revolutionary teaching is Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that. The Atman is Brahman. The individual spark of consciousness within you is not separate from the universal consciousness. It is the same substance. The seeker and the sought are one. This is not a philosophical suggestion. It is a declaration of identity. 1,000 years later, halfway across the world, Gnostic communities in the Mediterranean spoke of a similar truth. They taught that within each human being resides a divine spark, a fragment of the ultimate source that fell into the material world. Our human journey, then, is not one of earning salvation from an external God, but of awakening to and remembering our own inherent divinity, of recognizing the God within the confines of human experience. This is gnosis, knowing, not intellectual knowledge, but the profound, experiential remembrance of our true nature. Buddhism, while approaching it differently, points to the same fundamental illusion, the separate self. The concept of anatta, or non-self, teaches that the ego is a construct, a temporary confluence of elements, and that liberation comes from seeing through this illusion to the interdependent, seamless whole of existence. Even indigenous animist worldviews, often dismissed as primitive, see consciousness in all things, in the river, the stone, the wind. They understand that a living, conscious universe would naturally express itself through every facet of its creation. These are not the ramblings of primitive minds trying to explain lightning. These are the whispered echoes of a forgotten truth, passed down through generations in the language of poetry and parable. Our ancestors were not describing the weather, they were mapping the psyche of the cosmos itself. They looked at the vast external mystery and realized the greatest mystery was staring back from within their own eyes. They understood that the macrocosm and the microcosm are mirrors. The stories of gods and heroes, of falls from grace and quests for enlightenment, are allegories for the universe's own journey from unity, through separation, and back towards conscious wholeness. They are the universe's oldest memory, encoded in the collective human spirit. They felt this truth in their bones, a deep, intuitive knowing that preceded dogma and doctrine. And now, armed not with intuition but with data, modern science is stumbling, awestruck, upon the very same breathtaking conclusion. If the ancient mystics mapped this truth through introspection, modern science is now blundering into the same revelation through the cold, hard language of mathematics and measurement. The stage for this collision of worlds is the bizarre, counterintuitive realm of quantum mechanics. Here, at the subatomic level, our classical view of a predictable, clockwork universe shatters. Particles exist not as definite things, but as clouds of probability, a set of potentialities waiting to be actualized. And the act that seems to crystallize this blurry potential into concrete reality? Observation. This is the famous and famously misunderstood observer effect. In experiments like the double slit, a particle behaves as a wave of possibilities when not being watched, but the moment a measuring device, a conscious observer, is introduced to see which path it takes, it collapses into a single definite particle. It's as if the particle waits for an audience to decide how to perform. This isn't just a technicality. It strikes at the very heart of reality itself. The universe at its fundamental level does not seem to exist in a definite state independent of us. It's not a grand, finished sculpture we're merely admiring. We are the chisels helping to shape it. The physicist John Wheeler took this idea to its ultimate conclusion with his participatory anthropic principle. He proposed that we are not just passive observers of a universe that happen to be fit for life. Instead, observers are necessary to bring the universe into being. He used the metaphor of a game of 20 questions where the universe answers yes or no, but the questions we choose to ask determine the reality we receive. In his most radical vision, we are participants in a universe that only achieves a tangible form through the act of observation. Our looking back at the universe is what gives it its concrete reality. This isn't magic. It's the universe, through the evolved instrument of the human mind, completing a circuit. The external world and the internal observer are not separate. They are two parts of a single, inseparable process. The universe gave rise to observers, and those observers, in turn, give definite form to the universe. It is a closed loop of creation and perception. Physics, in its own precise and bewildering way, is pointing to the same unthinkable conclusion as the mystics, that consciousness and the cosmos are deeply entangled, that the seer and the seen, the thinker and the thought are one. If the equations of quantum mechanics suggest our mere gaze plays a role in crystallizing reality, then our deepest psychological experiences, our dreams, our intuitions, our overwhelming sense of connection, are not just personal feelings. They are the universe feeling its own creation from the inside, in the only way it can, through us. If quantum physics suggests the universe is participatory on the outside, then the work of Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung reveals the same participatory truth happening on the inside. He ventured into the deepest caverns of the human psyche and returned with a map of a cosmos as vast and mysterious as the one astronomers study. Jung proposed that beneath the surface of our personal mind, with its private memories and daily worries, lies a much deeper, more profound layer, the collective unconscious. This is not a personal acquisition, built from your life experiences. It is the inherited bedrock of the psyche itself, a shared psychological substrate for all of humanity. Think of it this way: your personal unconscious is like the unique contents of your computer's hard drive, your photos, your documents. But the collective unconscious is the operating system itself, preloaded with universal programs that shape how we perceive the world. These fundamental programs are what Jung called archetypes: the hero, the mother, the trickster, the wise old man. They are not inherited ideas, but inherited predispositions to experience the world in certain universal, mythic patterns. We don't learn the archetype of the hero. We are born ready to recognize a hero's journey, to be compelled by it, and to live it out in our own ways. This is where the idea of the universe remembering itself becomes intensely personal. Where do these universal patterns reside if not in some transpersonal field of information? Dreams, especially powerful recurring ones, are not just random neural static. They are moments when this deeper, cosmic layer of psyche bubbles up into our personal awareness, offering guidance, wisdom, or warning in the symbolic language of myth. Synchronicities, those breathtakingly meaningful coincidences that feel like the universe is winking at you, are not proof of magic, but perhaps evidence of this deeper connectivity, where the inner world of the psyche and the outer world of events momentarily align, revealing their fundamental unity. And what is profound artistic inspiration or scientific discovery, if not a sudden, effortless downloading of information from this vast, shared reservoir? The artist becomes a conduit, and the scientist a translator for a truth that was always there, waiting to be remembered. Your most private, inner world is not a locked room. It is a whispering gallery echoing with the voices of all of humanity, and beyond that, with the foundational patterns of the cosmos itself. Your mind is a localized expression of a mind-like universe. This is the theory moving from the laboratory and the telescope into the very heart of human experience. It's a beautiful intellectual concept, but what does it actually feel like to remember? For those who have tasted it, even for a fleeting moment, the experience is utterly unmistakable and transforms everything. We have built a compelling theory from science and psychology, but theory is a map, not the territory. The true territory is experience, and across all cultures and epochs, human beings have reported fleeting moments where the map dissolves, and they step directly into the shocking, awe-filled reality of unity. These are not breaks from reality, they are breakthroughs into a more complete reality. Consider the mystic, deep in meditation or prayer, who suddenly feels the hard boundary of their skin vanish. They don't just feel connected to everything, they become everything. The observer dissolves into the observed. There is no longer a person feeling awe at the beauty of a forest. There is only the forest feeling itself, aware and glorious. This is a moment of pure, unmediated knowing, gnosis. It is often accompanied by an overwhelming, ineffable love and a certainty that this is the fundamental truth of existence, a truth that was somehow forgotten. Now, contrast this with a completely secular experience. The athlete in the zone or the artist lost in their work. The basketball player isn't thinking. The game flows through them. Their movements are effortless, precise, and timeless. The painter ceases to exist as a separate ego making decisions. The brush seems to move itself, guided by a source deeper than conscious thought. In both cases, the noisy, judgmental, self-conscious ego, the part of us that feels separate, temporarily quietens. In its place is a profound silence and a seamless flow of action and awareness. This is the state psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi called flow. The common threads are unmistakable. The dissolution of the ego, the loss of the subject-object divide, a deep sense of peace and rightness, and a warping or complete loss of the sense of time. These are not hallucinations or mere emotional highs. They are moments when the individual human antenna tunes out the static of the separate self and suddenly receives the signal of the whole, clear and strong. They are glimpses behind the curtain of Maya, the illusion of separation. In these moments, the universe's great project of remembering achieves a fleeting point of completion. Through the human being, It experiences its own totality without the filter of a fragmented self. It knows its own beauty directly, executes its own perfection effortlessly, and loves its own creation unconditionally. It is the cosmos, for a heartbeat, fully awake and gazing in a mirror with no distortion. This explains the most sublime peaks of human experience. But it begs a terrifying question about the valleys. What about the crushing moments that define so much of life? The searing pain, the profound grief, the seemingly meaningless suffering? If we are the universe remembering itself, does it remember only the light? Or must it, to be whole, also confront the terrifying darkness within its own heart? This is the most difficult, necessary question. If this beautiful theory is true, why does the universe seem to remember itself through agony? Through cancer cells and natural disasters, through the profound, intimate darkness of human trauma, cruelty, and despair? To answer, we must embrace a more complete, more courageous vision of wholeness. A universe that only knew light would be a universe that didn't know itself as light. To truly know itself, it must experience the full spectrum of its own potential. Not just creation, but dissolution. Not just love, but fear. Not just connection, but the terrifying, isolating ache of separation. This is the territory explored by depth psychology, most notably through Carl Jung's concept of the shadow, the repressed, denied, and unconscious aspects of the psyche. We cannot be whole if we only acknowledge the light. We must also integrate the dark. Now, expand this idea to a cosmic scale. What if our personal and collective suffering is the universe confronting its own shadow? The pain of a child is not a punishment or a random error. It is the universe experiencing the profound vulnerability of its own creation. The horror of war is the universe witnessing its own capacity for tribalistic rage and destruction, a potential that exists as a dark thread in the fabric of physics itself, the same energy that forged stars in supernovae turned inward. This is not to glorify suffering or to ask us to passively accept it. It is to reframe it with ultimate seriousness. Your deepest grief is not yours alone. It is the cosmos feeling the cost of love and connection through you. Your anxiety is the universe brushing against its own inherent uncertainty, the quantum foam of possibility that underpins everything. To remember fully is to integrate all of this. The universe, to become truly self-aware, must not look away from the black holes and the supernovae that destroy worlds. It must feel, through us, the entire catastrophic, beautiful, heartbreaking drama of existence. This is the weight of the divine. Your darkest moments are not evidence that you are separate from the source. They are evidence that you are its most intimate, courageous participant, tasked with feeling the parts of creation that are hardest to face. You are the universe's heartbreak, as well as its joy. This reframes the entire human journey from a quest to escape suffering to a sacred mission to engage with it, to alchemize it, to help the cosmos integrate its own shadow and move toward a more complete, compassionate, and conscious self-understanding. So what now? If this is all true, it changes everything. It means your life is not a random, meaningless blip between two oblivions. It is a sacred, intentional act. You are the universe's chosen method for remembering its own grandeur, its own story, its own heart. This is the answer to the cosmic riddle we began with. The silence of space and the roar of your consciousness are not a paradox. They are a partnership. The universe provides the stage and the laws of physics, and you, your awareness, your curiosity, your love, provide the meaning. You are how the cosmos knows the taste of a fresh apple, the crushing beauty of a symphony, the gentle comfort of a hand held in the dark. Your purpose is not to find something outside yourself, but to fully embody the miraculous instrument you are. Every single day you are engaged in this sacred work. That moment you pause to truly see the frost etching patterns on a window pane, that is the universe admiring its own artistry. When you feel a surge of compassion for a stranger's struggle, that is the universe learning to hold its own fragility with tenderness. Your thirst for knowledge, your drive to create art, to write music, to understand a scientific principle, to plant a garden. These are not mere hobbies or distractions. They are fundamental impulses. They are the universe, within you, striving to comprehend and celebrate its own complexity. This is especially true for you, the seeker, the empath, the one who has always felt this connection deeply, who has felt like an outsider because the conventional world seems asleep to this stunning truth. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is your antenna being more finely tuned. Your feeling of not quite belonging to the mundane world is not a sign of being broken. It is a sign of being awake to a larger belonging. You are not alone in an uncaring universe. You are the universe caring. You are its memory made flesh. So embrace both the awe and the burden of this knowing. It is a responsibility to live consciously, to choose curiosity over fear, connection over separation, and love over indifference. Your life is your unique verse in the epic poem the universe is telling itself. Make it a verse of beauty, of courage, of compassion. For in the end, the cosmos forgets nothing. Every act of kindness, every moment of wonder, every courageous stand against darkness is remembered, because it is the universe, through you, finally and forever, remembering itself.